Hello, grade 8. In this lesson, I'm going to further discuss with you distance time graphs. Through several examples, you will be able to construct a distance time graph from given information, interpret distance time graphs, and determine an object speed from a distance time graph. Let's start with our first example. A person walked 100 meters in a straight line in 100 seconds. Then they stopped for 40 seconds and then walked another 70 meters in 50 seconds. Construct a distance time graph to show this journey. Remember, when you construct any graph, you have to label the axes. Time in seconds is on the x-axis and distance in meters is on the y-axis. Now, how are we going to divide our axes? The distance traveled by this person is 100 meters in the first part of the journey. Then he stopped, so 0 meters traveled. Another 70 meters, so a total of 170 meters. And the time spent is 100 seconds, 40 seconds, and an extra 50 seconds, so a total of 190 seconds. Remember that you have to use more than half of the graph you're given. So to divide the time and the distance axis, I have to fit at least 190 seconds here. I'm going to divide it into 20s. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. Okay, and the distance as well in 20s. 120, 140, 160, 200. Okay, now we're going to plot each part of the journey. The person starts walking from 0 seconds, 0 time. So this is our first point here on the graph. When the person starts the journey, he walks 100 meters in 100 seconds. So in 100 seconds, we need to plot a point between 100 seconds and 100 meters. This is our first point here. Then they stopped for 40 seconds. When the person stops, no distance is being traveled, but the time is still moving. When they stop for 40 seconds, then the new time here is now 100 plus 40, it's 140 seconds. Then they walked another 70 meters in 50 seconds. Another 70 meters in 50 seconds. So now our new distance is 100 plus 70, which is 170 meters. So 170 meters is right in the middle between 160 and 180. It's in the middle of this grid here. The time is 140 plus 50, so it's 190 in the middle of this grid here. It's better now to use your rule in order to precisely plot your points. So we need to now plot a point between 190 and 170 meters. It's right in the middle of the grid. Okay, they meet here. So this is our point here in the middle of this grid. What we need to do now is connect all the dots to show the graph of this journey. We connect them with a ruler and in straight lines, of course. This is the first section of the journey, the second section, and the third section. Okay, here's another example for you. A person walks in a straight line 60 meters in 80 seconds. Then they walk a further 110 meters in 70 seconds. Plot a distance time graph for this journey. Okay, first of all, we need to label our axes. Time in seconds, distance in meters. Now we're going to divide our x and y axes. He walks 60 meters in the first 80 seconds. This is the first part of the journey. Another 100 meters in 70 seconds. So 60 plus 110, it's 170 meters. So we need to divide our y-axis so it can fit the 170 meters. The time spent is 80 seconds and 70 seconds, so 150. We will divide these axes also in 20s. Okay, now this journey is divided into two parts. The first part is when the person walks 60 meters in 80 seconds, then 110 meters in 70 seconds. We need to plot each part of this journey. The person at the beginning of the journey is at 0 seconds, 0 distance at this point here. The first part of the journey is traveling 60 meters in 80 seconds. So we need to plot a point between 80 seconds and 60 meters. Then they walk a further 110 meters in 70 seconds, a further 110 meters. So now our distance is 60 plus 110 meters, it's 170. 170 again is between 160 and 180. In 70 seconds, 80 seconds plus 70 seconds is 150 seconds, between 140 and 160. Now we need to plot a point between these 2 points. Use a ruler to determine where these 2 points will meet. You have to be very precise. So they meet here. Okay, now we need to connect these points to show the different parts of the journey. So this is the first part of the journey. And this is the second part of the journey. Okay, now you could be asked to interpret the graph, describe the graph. This journey is divided into 2 sections. Both of them are steady speeds. The first part of the journey is slower than the second part of the journey because the second part is steeper. So, if you were asked to know how far did the person walk in 120 seconds, what would you do? Okay, we'll go to 120 seconds on the x-axis, and we need to see which point on the y-axis meets this point on the x-axis. So at 120 seconds, the person has walked this much distance. So this is 120 here, and this point here is one grid after the 120. We need to know how much is the value of each grid between each marking. So we have 5 markings for each grid, and we are dividing them into 20s. So the value of each grid is 20 divided by 5, it's 4. So the value of each grid is 4 meters. 120 seconds meets this point here at the y-axis, which is 124 meters. So how far did the person walk in 120 seconds? 124 meters. How long did it take to walk 40 meters? In the same way, we go to the y-axis at 40 meters and we see how long did it take to travel 40 meters. And we see which point meets it on the x-axis. We drop a line on the x-axis here. As you notice, it's right in the middle of the grid. So you have to know exactly how much is the value of this point here. Again, each grid is divided into a 20 and it has 5 grids in the middle. The value of each grid in the middle is 4. So this is 40, 44, 48, 52 plus 2, this is 54. Okay, so the time spent to travel 40 meters is 54 seconds.